love is a very brave act, and even, I mean, on almost every level.
Nick,
Steve,
thank you. Hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. It's nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
You're
But
very
are you
welcome.
checking out my wall? It looks
I'm
really
checking out, I see that you've got my Jeremy Irons in The Lion King.
yes. Yeah. Oh, that's Simba. That or that's no, that's is that Simba or Mufasa? But yes, very much love Jeremy Irons in the line. Scar. Oh, I do have him right here. That's where you mean, of course. Yes,
Oh, okay,
right
great.
here.
Yeah, nice,
I
nice,
love Scar. He's my
great,
favorite Disney villain.
great, great.
Um, But honestly, it's a joy to speak with you. Thank you. I really do appreciate the time. Uh, this ordinary thing is such a special project. It really is incredible. Where did it come from?
So it came from a weird set of circumstances. I had worked in the past with a wonderful man named Al Tapper. He executive produced another of my films, and he and I were kicking around ideas to do work together again because we really enjoyed it. And we both knew about this organization called the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous, which unites people who had saved Jews with their saviors all these years later. And he said, "That's it. That's what we're doing." And I couldn't resist. Basically, I felt like, wow, at a time like this where times are so divided, to tell the stories of people who had, at great risk to themselves and their families, eh, done these extraordinary things of helping people, and harboring people and rescuing people who were different from them just because they were persecuted, and they felt it was the right thing to do. And I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know. I mean, I'd heard of Oscar Schindler, and that was about it. And I didn't know that there had been so many people all over Europe who, without any coordination, had all sort of just, knock on the door. Oh, to our amazement, he was a Jew and he wanted us to hide his suitcase, or can you hide our little girl? And 3 weeks later, can you hide her brother? Well, if they'll kill us for one, they'll kill us for two. Yeah, and the next thing you know, you got 37 people living in the attic. I mean, all these stories were so mind-boggling to me, and given the incredibly divided times in which we live, and times in which we are encouraged to divide ourselves into team A or team B, I just felt like, wow, these stories have to be told.
It's amazing. It's remarkable to hear these one story after another. And the voices you have behind it. Like this is to even to say it's an all-star cast of Hollywood people is almost insulting because there's just it's unbelievable the amount of talent that you have.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And I do sometimes sort of think like it's like a Pixar movie. It's like Lion King. We have Jeremy Irons, they have Jeremy Irons. Like, but it's ridiculous. I don't know really how it happened. I mean, I can tell you the logistics, which is whole time I was doing the film, I had used my friends and friends of friends and my wife's best friend and whatever. But Jane, my wife and partner in the company, the whole time she was like, you got to get real actors. You do know that. And I was like, yeah, but I think Eric does a nice job and whatever. And she was like, no, 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 come on, stop. And so I went out through my agents, and for months, 3 months, nothing happened. And we were nearly finished editing the film at this point. And then one day out of the blue, I get a phone call that you dream about. Dame Helen Mirren wants to be in your film. And she's working for Scale. And then that opened the floodgates. And so then you get F. Murray Abraham wants to do it. Jeremy Irons wants to do it. And Stephen Fry, Carrie Coon. I mean, within like 3 weeks, we had a ridiculously great cast. And I don't really know how it happened, other than I think that a couple of things. One, I think actors in general are people trained in the act of empathy. And so I think that these stories resonated with them even more so. And then these particular actors, I think, really cared about telling these particular stories.
Well, you know what I love about this film too is that it's them, but it's not about highlighting the actors. It's about highlighting the stories. So they're reading someone else's story. Even at the end, it's like, well, they're in it, but this is who they were reading for. And I
Yes, yes.
appreciate that aspect about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was and what was great was look, I had them for an hour each on Zoom, but
Mm.
almost all of them would come to the Zoom and say, I was looking into this person that I'm playing, and it turns out, and so they did their research, they did their work, not just on the text, but extra textual. So they brought even more to it than that. And and look, I mean, I was so lucky. I just got to watch these guys work. Ellen Burstyn, I mean, she's extraordinary. And I always think about this one where she was telling a story or reading a story about she was a little girl and her mother, the people that her mother and parents had saved would always volunteer to do the stuff that the mom didn't want to do. Like I think it was darning the socks and doing the ironing. And Ellen Burstyn read this little excerpt and cried during it. And I thought, oh, that was interesting. And we talked. I said, that was interesting that you cried. And she said, yeah, I don't know why I cried. I shouldn't really cry. It's not that important. I said, no, but it's an interesting memory. But this time, why don't you do it again and try and sort of throw it away? She was like, all right, I'll do that. She cried even more the next time. And we both agreed, like, there's something in here that is triggering this character because she hasn't thought about it in 40 years. And so she's crying. And it's like, what a gift for an actor to give a film that. So yeah, I mean, those kinds of things just happen all the time and deepened the film. No disrespect to my friend Eric, but like deepened the film so much more to have this incredible cast of actors.
What surprised you most about these stories? Because like this it's incredible to me. You know, we hear stories every now and then of a person, but like you said, there's the number of people here are it's remarkable.
The scope, the height of goodness that these people, climbed to, the depth of the evil that surrounded them, and in some cases, like because they were surrounded by, I mean, Dame Helen Mirren reads the woman Irene Gut Updike, who, had hid 13 people in a villa. She was working for a German general, an old man. And, he'd be downstairs, so they'd hide in the attic. He'd go upstairs, they'd go down into the basement. And this worked for a while, but eventually he catches on and is furious at her. And she begs him, please, please, please. And he says, all right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll keep your secret, but you have to be mine and willingly too. And you're just like, wait, what? I mean, it's just an unthinkable story, and made even more so, I mean, by the fact that Helen Mirren is telling you it and is, I don't want to say she's acting up a storm, but she's you believe her. You believe the woman telling you, and it feels current, it feels alive. And that's what I wanted the film to feel like, is like current, alive, active, color. We wanted as much color footage as we could find from World War II and the years before it. And so that was, I think, what surprised me was just like the scope and the depth.
Yeah, it's amazing because and I want to say this well, but some like you hear some of these stories and they're all very human. Maybe that's the word. They're all very human. Some of them are people who are frustrated by the experience of having people in their homes. Some of
Oh
them
yeah,
are
this
people
is
who are
not some
yeah,
joyride. I mean, and you hear about people who hid people. I mean, who were killed. Like,
yeah,
like they killed the Jews and they killed the people who were hiding them. And you hear that from people who were also hiding Jews.
yeah.
And you just think, okay, yeah, so the risk is real, and the stakes could not be higher. But these people are so, I don't want to say matter of fact, but they did it just because it was what they had to do. not some I'm posing for a coin and this is goodness,
Yeah.
righteousness. No, this is just what they had to do. So that really was impactful to me.
Well, and I think there's one couple that says, would you do this again? And they sort of say, well, no, and then they laugh because they say, yes, we would.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I I
You
wanted
know,
I
we do the
wanted
same thing all over again. Yeah. F. Murray Abraham.
yeah,
I mean, it does that. Yeah, it's great. I mean, unbelievable.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, when we think of the word resistance, we think of traditionally with resistance, you think about rising up, taking action. Is love an act of resistance?
What a fantastic question. I don't often think of it that way, but I think that it is. I think that love is a very brave act. And even, I mean, on almost every level, like romantic love is brave because it's scary, and parental love is brave, and love for my fellow human being is particularly like, and it can be an act of resistance if the whole world is saying, no, are you on team A or team B? Are you on the red team or the blue team? Like, and therefore it is profoundly an act of resistance. What a great question. Is that like a well-known, is that like a thing? Did you just come up with that?
I don't know. It struck me from the film because honestly, that's one of the things that they keep talking about. One person says, "I was young and I hated the Nazis. This was my
Yeah,
resistance."
this was my resistance. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and it's interesting because I said, like, none of these people were working together. It wasn't part of some organized resistance, but it is resistance. Like, love for my neighbor is resistance when you're living in those kinds of times, or maybe, frankly, these kinds of times.
Mm. Yes, and you draw that line. There are comment. I want actually that was interesting because I'm assuming that's coming from the letters, but there is somebody that talks about human nature having not been changed.
So somebody says, if that war didn't change us, what can? And we continue to make the same fall into the same divisions, and the us versus them, and the what's called othering now, and so it can be sort of dispiriting. And yeah, all of these interviews were conducted in the 1980s, and so they weren't talking about today's situation. They were talking about the 1980s, and that there were these divisions then, and it's like it's a tale as old as time, and it's very distressing, really, that we continue to make the same mistakes. Those who are not who don't know history are condemned to repeat it. It's very it can be dispiriting, but on the other hand, these are stories where you're like, okay, this is inspiring that these people did it, and by golly, we should all aspire to do the same thing.
Nick, I really appreciate that, and this is honestly, it's a powerful piece. Just incredible. I really appreciate the time to chat with you about it. I see we're out of time, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for these great questions. It was really great talking to you.
Wonderful. It's great talking to you too. Thanks.
Okay.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.